So
Yes, I can see your thing.
yeah, in the same vein, we are going to go on with the Python where we stopped. So on this, I'm just going to launch Jupyter Lab. So I will go type in Jupyter Lab in the terminal, and I am
Sorry,
going to.
sorry, sir, but please can you just help me? I've been trying to like initially I was able to connect my GitHub to my Python. So I was thinking it will be updating itself by, but it's not updating it. And if for any reason I come and try to do git add, push, git commit, it's not working. It's see that old first project I showing on my GitHub account.
Yeah. All right. I've heard you. So I will go ahead and click and create a new notepad, and I am going to rename it. And in the renaming, I'm going to save it with bar label. So we're going to label the bar because we stopped at the color. That was the last time we did. So now we are going to do the labeling. So if you look at both code, you will see here we use Matplotlib. So on the same vein, we are going to use Matplotlib as well. So in the bar, we need to use the Matplotlib which we use. So in labeling, there are different things we just need to know. There are different types of labeling we can do, where we can label on it or we can label off it. Like what I mean by on it is if you have a data that you need to label it on top of it, or you need to label it on the body. So you can use those data to get that done. So in this case, um, what we are going to use is we have been using different way where we combine lists, sets, tuple, and dictionary. So we're going to be making use of those. We're going to be making use of those uh, parts of where we store data in this way. So we're going to use the same way, and we're going to make a kind of labeling by labeling depending on the way we want it to go. So first and foremost, I am going to start with, let's say I'm going to define different names of, probably different names of people we are going to use. So in this case, I am going to use um let me use geomatics as the list of the member. So in that way, so I am going to use dictionary because I want to store them with I'm going to use lists, sorry, because I want to store them with their different names. So in that way, I am going to use um, people that belongs to Pablo group. So I'm going to store Pablo as a first name. So in that way, I have to put Pablo. Then I'm also going to go ahead, and then I'm going to put those that are in Sterling group, and I'm also going to put those in Lulu group. And in this way, I have two variables, and both two variables, or three or four depending on how many I want to get. So I'm going to put them in that different list group. So now when this is done, I can now define between them which of these people, like subdivide them, say in that, and let's say that I put those in this group, and I have probably two people on the group of Pablo, and another people in the group of Sterling, and then another people in the group of Nulu. So in that way, I am going to put up the counts, let's say numbers or sort of things like that, or we can say height, or we can say any number, anything that comes in our mind. So we'll be going to be using a real data, but in this case, when you have something to classify in this part, so let's assume we have people that are in Pablo group. And remember, like I said, since we have to introduce the gender, let's use introduce it as a gender. Since we have to use this, so we are going to be using dictionary. And you know what we did in dictionary? In dictionary, we have to have a value, and the first value we are going to have is male. uh, and then in that male, how many male do we have in Pablo group, for example? So we need to now assign values to it, and in assigning the values to it, so we need to use NP array, because the NP array have to do a number. NP, that is um, numerical Python, so we have to use that in order to actually get those values in it. So in that way, I'm going to do np array here, where I am going to store the data in the list, and then I want to assume that 10 people are in Pablo group that are male, and then in Sterling group there are 20 people that is in Sterling group, and then in Nulu group there are about 5 of them that are male that is in Nulu group. So in this way, I can close it up, and then I'll do the same thing as related to female. So in that way, to make it fast, so I will need to copy it and then replicate this. So to make this faster for us, I am going to copy and replicate, just paste it. So in this way, I'm going to paste this, and the same thing I want to represent, I have male and female as well. Then I want to assume that there are about 5 people that are in Pablo group that are female, and there are about 12 people that are female in Sterling, and there are about 85 people that are in Nulu that are female. So in this way, I can confidently close up my bracket, which have to do with core bracket, telling me that it is um, dictionary. So you see, we have used different core bracket. The square bracket, we understand what it means when we're talking about the way we store data in lists, sets, um, tuple, and dictionary. So we have utilized those things here. Now, after doing this, we want to define the width of our the bar which we want to represent. Now remember, like we said, we I have explained to us as related to the width, so I want to define the width. So if I put the width at 0.4, for example, do you understand what 0.4 mean? So in this way, now let's go ahead and define the plot we want to define. So in that, I'm going to use x, and then I'm going to use ax, where we are going to make a plot. So I'm going to use plt as our program. Remember, we're using Matplotlib. And then when we use plt, so we are going to do a subplot. So it is like we talked about last time. So I'm going to do a subplot here. So I'm going to do a subplot, and in that subplot that I'm going to have, I want to have the subplot which is going to be from the bottom, like from the downside of it. So from the downside of it, which I want to put up with the np, I want it to start with 0. So whatever I want to do, I want it to start with this. So the np zeros here is going to be in 3. How is it going to be in 3? Because we are going to plot the number of bars we are going to have. Then for that, we will go ahead and define our this thing using for. So for the number of gender which we are going to have, so let's say for number of gender that we are going to have, so we need it to have like gender, I think is a capital letter. So it have to be gender. Then in the gen which we are looking at, so in the gender we have, in the gender, so have to be to iterate the count of the items. So you have to get it the number of the items you are going to get. So I am going to replace this here as the gender. We are going to dot the items in the gender. Remember, we have the items that we have inside the gender here is about 1 to 3. So we are going to use those items we have in the gender, which is male and female. And so when that happens, since we are using for, so we have to have close it up like this, and we need to make our plotting, and that plotting, so we need to define how it is going to be. So let me use this as plotting that we are going to have is equal to be our AS, which is the axis here, and in the axis that we need it to be a bar, like I said earlier. So we need it to be a bar, and when it is a bar, so we want to iterate the whole this thing inside here. So we are going to go into geomatics as we define it, and in the geomatics we need to put up the gender here. So we put it up the gender, so we are trying to call what we are going to plot in the bar. So we want the geomatics there, which is going to be the number, like we have those each of the group. So and then the gender have to be the two variable we are looking at plotting. So in that way, so we are defining geomatics and we are defining the gender in it, and then we put up this. What do we define? We define geomatics. We want to plot again the gender. The next thing we have here is width, so we need to also say also plot the width for us. So I'm putting up the width as the next this thing we need to call again. Then in terms of label, we now want to label it. So in the labeling, we want to label it as, so let's label them. So now let's define the label. So let's put the label as sex, and then in the aspect of button, remember we defined the button to start with, that is np0, which is 3. So we want it to be the same thing, so we are going to define it as this is equal to, we'll put it down there, and then after that we can close this up. So after closing it up, what else do we need to do again? Because we have defined those two things, so the next thing is how do we want it to show. Remember we are still in the same loop of 4. So in the axis of the bar, so x bar of it, so we want the bar to have something like the label of the bar. So let's make it label, the bar label, and we want it to be here where we have this part of here, as you can see, plot. So we are going to have the plot that we have, and we are going now to put it, what type of label do we want it. There are different types of label we have, so we can put it up there. Like if you don't want label, it means that you need to stop up here. But remember what we said about the labeling in during our last, when we were talking about the color bar and when we started with the Matplotlib. So there are different ways you can label. You can label it either in the beginning or the end. So in that way, we need to set up the axis which you want to do. So what else do we need to do again? We can decide to put it up and leave it like this. So depending on us, we can put the legend, like we have talked about the legend. So we need to put up the legend. So we need to put up legend. If you don't pass anything to it, that's good. If you pass something to it, so that's have to be with what you are passing into it. So for us to show the plot, so we need to do plot to show, and we open up this. So in this way, if you run this, you are going to have this bar coming up here. So it says something like let me see what we have. What is the error? The error is that there is no attribute. Numpy has no attribute 0. So let's go back to know what is the problem. So it says numpy has no attribute. Numpy has no attribute 0. So let's go back and check what is the problem. So down here, which is in line, no attribute like 0. So let's return back to where bottom, which is line 12, where I define this and I say 0. Okay, so it's supposed to be zeros, not 0. So we go down and we run it again, and there it says name sex is not defined. Okay, yeah, we didn't define the name sex. So let's go back to where we didn't define the name sex again. So for sex in, Okay, yeah, I wanted us to use sex, so that is in plot B. So let's use the label because we have defined it as gender. So let's use that as gen. So we are using gender, which is what we define up here. So let's run the same thing again. So we are able to have this. Now down here, as you can see, here we have the male, which gives us this color of male. Here we have it the female, which gives us the same thing as female. So what we end up doing is that we labeled it here as the look at, you can see the legend. So we have to show us the legend male and female showing the respective color. So if you look at this, you see that 4 here in Pablo, we have 4 and 10 in Pablo. Sorry, mouse is not working. So in Pablo we have 4 and 10. So if you look at it, you see between here, this is ranges from here to here. So it started from 0. So what it means is that we say here when we have this, so it have to start, whatever we're doing have to start from the beginning. So and that's why you have between here to here is 10, between here to here is 5, between here to here is 12, and here to 20. And from Nulu we have 5 and 35. So let's see why we have 5 and 35. And so let me change this to 50 and let's run it again. And then you see now that we have Nulu here as 50 and this one as 35. So in this way we were able to put it up that same way and able to label this in based on the way we want the name to show. Now another thing I want us to talk is in the labeling, assuming you don't want to pass the labeling into what it is, so you want to specify where it's supposed to be, so you can pass an argument into it and use label type. So let's use label type, and our label type is going to be at, let's make it at the center. So center in America center. So let's run that and see the difference between what we had. So as you can see now, so the center means it ought to be at the center. Here 10, here 4, here 20, here 12, here 15, and here 35. So you can see the variation that we have here. So if you change the size of what it is, let's make this one something like 70, let's make this one something like 40, and let's make this one something like 50. That's okay. Now in the same vein, let's also assume that both of them are in the same place. So let's try having both male and female at the same place. The next one, let's also make it like 38, close to it, and then let's make this one close to, let's say, around 53. Let's run the same thing, and when we run it, we will see what happened here. This is here. Now you can see the difference because we say put it at the center, and that's why we're having this type of the way it is. So somehow this is the center, so we can change this. When it's not the center, then what we have is says it does not have the so you see the labeling type does not have the value names as center. Left is not value, supported are edge and center. So let's check this to edge. So when we put it at the edge, and I think it is DGE, and then you see this is what the difference between the other one and this. So we have the same value here, and that's why we're having them stuck at the same place. So I want to change it to 16, and then I'll run this, and you can see here this is here and that is there. This is 49 and 39 overlapping. This is 53. And now remember, because you have male in front, if this one is smaller than each other, it tends to be overlapping. So if you make this 56 and return this back to, let's say, 40, and run this now, you will see that you have this extensively because the male is smaller than the female, so that's why you see it, the male is not covering the other one. So this is a way you can make this kind of plotting. So let me change this also to something like 23 and run it, and you're able to see the difference between them. So in that way, we can also in our next thing, we're also going to be using a file, and we read through the file. Let me say somebody send you a data in Excel sheet and ask you to analyze it. How are you going to get it analyzed? You don't need to open it, just import it here. If it is a big data, how do you go? How are you going to analyze it? So we're going to be treating that on that. So this is a way you can plot a bar and overlap them like this. Assuming you also want to pass the title into it, remember what we say, you can show axis. So in the axis dot, you put up the same thing we talked about last time. So we say title, and then we open it up and we can name it whatever we want to name it. And let's say number of genders in geomatics. So the same way, once this is done and we run it, we should be able to see, yeah, what is okay. I didn't put it, didn't write the title well. So when you put up this, you should be able to have the title the way it is. And remember what I said, this is X, this is the label. Look at the bar X here where we have plot and say at the edge. Remember what we said as related to label, like what we have here. If you want to make labeling, you can make labeling like I said here in our last. So if you copy this, you can see you can make label. For example, let me copy this and return back to this, and then come down here and paste it. So you will automatically have the labeling by this side and this side, assuming they have two different variables. Let's say it is by height, or say it is by number, or say it is, so you can say here beginner's name, then you can also say beginner's value. So whatever you name it, that's going to come in. Remember what we say, if you want to grade it, the way you're going to grade it, so you make it that same way and then make the grading that same way. So it is left for you to define it the way you want to define it. So this is a way you can plot when you're talking about a vertical bars. So there are different data you can work on this. If you have a lot of data, you are going to see it. So for example, if you have this and want to plot it in Excel, you can see the difference between this and what you have in Excel, because sometimes it doesn't really look nice, but having this in Python, you should be able to put it the way you want it and how you want it. So this is a way you can perfectly work on a way you can perfectly work on a vertical bars. Yeah, so this is for vertical bars. So let's also look at how we can work on a horizontal bar. So in horizontal bar, like changing the bar into horizontal direction, like making it in the other direction. So let's say you have a variable you want to work on, and let's use, for example, let's take for example, and let's start with states, and then the name of the states we want to put is, let's put something like in the list, let's put Lagos, let's put Anambra, let's put Imo, let's put Enugu. Now let me close this up, and in our normal listing, all this supposed to be, because it is a strings, so we put it up Enugu, and then we go down to this, put up the same thing the way it ought to be. Now what does it mean? This is like when you have a data that have a name and you want to plot it horizontally or vertically. What do I mean by name? I mean by name, you have a data have a values and like a name and have the rest of the values. So what I'm going to do is exactly what I'm doing now. So I can put it up here like this is the now. Let's say the distance from Abuja to each of the state, for example. So I can say, let me type Abuja here. Now the distance that we need to have between both of them, like the distances between them, the distance from Lagos, Abuja to Lagos, let's assume it is 234, and the distance from Abuja to Anambra should be smaller, let's assume 167. The distance from Abuja to Imo is almost the same thing, so let's say 180, and then the distance from um, Abuja to Enugu, let's say 130. Now when you have this and you want to represent them, so let's quickly make a plotting, and in the plotting, so let's call fig as fig, and then let's plot the x it in the x-axis, and then in the x-axis let us now subplot it. So let's say plt dot, we say source subplot, the same keyword that we have been using. So when we plot it, we want the bar, and we want the bar to be, let's say, bar of the distances between them. So let me put the bar which is going to be equal to ax dot bar, because it is a bar. So I'm going to say ax in the x-axis, that I want it to be bar. Remember what we said when we say bar and when we say bar. I think we did it in this. If not this, it is the earlier one when we're talking about bar and when we put bar. So there are difference between them. Like I said, when you put bar, it is horizontal, vertical. But when you put bar, that's B-A, and you put like bar, like when we said the last time, you put B-A-R-H. So that means you are talking about it in horizontal form. That's, remember when we do talk about it there. So sometimes you use H bar. There are different ways you can represent it, but I want you to remember what we did when we were talking about it. So in that way, I want to plot the bar, and I want it to be, I now put those things I define. The first thing I define here is I define state, and the next thing I define here that I want to put is Abuja as the distance between them. And then what else do I need again? I have defined those two things that I want, and then the next thing I can do is to put it up. Let's take, for example, where do I want to, how do I want to label it? So I can say distances. So in that way, so I'm going to put up to set the axis. So I'm going to say axis dot set, and I want to set the part of y, which is the label for y. So I'm going to say y label, and then I'm going to label the y because the horizontal aspect of it is the distances between them. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say distance, then in kilometer. So for example, so kilometer per hour, if you are driving kilometer per hour, you should be getting there by that time. So when I put it up, the next thing I need again is I want to define the title. So I'm going to say the title, and I can say something like distance between. So I will say distances from Abuja to different states. So when I say different from Abuja to different states, so what else do I need to do? If I want to work on it as related to the length, so I can make the length. So since it is going to be in horizontal part, so I can put the this, which is going to give me the y limb, and then the y limb is going to start from where I will define where I want it to start. Then let's say I want the length to go in the length of the way. So let's use, since we have 234, let's use 250. So in that way, I'm going to put 0, and I'm going to make comma, and I'm saying to say 250, for example. So, and I can close up this brackets because I supposed to like have a two set of brackets here, and then from here I have the first bracket here, then the second bracket I have here is I supposed to close up the bracket back here. Then the next thing I need to do again is that I have to say the ax bar, because I'm going to plot bar and it's going to be a vertical, but it's not a horizontal. So I'm going to say underscore, and I'm going to label it. And why I'm labeling it, I want it to label it based on what it contains. So in the containing, so I'm going to say here bar, like whatever that is there. So I'm going to say bar underscore what it contains. Then what format am I going to make it? So remember, we make a format of here, and then let's just use the anonymous function. So I'm going to use the lambda, and then in this way, which is I'm going to put up like whatever it is x, then and this. So if we want to format it, remember when we use f string, so we can always do the formatting and put up this like a dictionary, and I will say, because of the size, let us make the lambda function into whatever we want it to be, and in that, in whatever it's going to be, let us also make it in one significant figure. So instead of it having multiple figures, so we are going to make it in one significant figure. And when that is done, so we are going to put up these things in kilometer per hour, like we define it, the distances it runs up here. So we are going to make it to that, the distances, which is what we put up a kilometer per hour. So I'm going to put it up in kilometer per hour, then I'm going to close it up, the f string. So I'm going to close it up here. So I close up the bracket. So with this, you can see that you will be able to see what you have here in using the lambda function. So with this now, you see here we have the test here that goes between 0 to 374. You see here now that we have here 130, we have 234, we have 165. So now, because of the lambda function, which is an animal, so it goes in bringing you up this. So you see one this significant figure. If I change this to two significant figure and run the same thing, it should be able to give me in two significant figure, like you see here 0 0. So if it is 1, it is going to be okay by 1. So what is the this? You see here, I make it here up to 250, which I can change from here. If I change this thing and say give it to me here, and then I will run the code, and you see now that automatically it started from here, which is, I see it here, it started in 100. So this is a way I can assign where I want it to start. If you see here, it says started in 100 and it ranged to 250, which we have here. So because I started in 100 and it counted in 20 20 20, that's why I stop here. If I change this into 260, as you can see, and I run this code, you will see that the labeling in the x is going to be complete. So you can see distance kilometer per hour, and if you want to put up here, remember here you only have y label, and in the y label say kilometer per hour. In the title you have this. So if you want to pass x label, so you need to also make x label here. For example, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Look, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Sorry, I was trying to type out the code that you done before that. So I did not. What did you say I should do?
Yeah, I'm saying what I want to put the state in the y-axis, in the x-axis. What am I supposed to do?
In the You want to put the space in the x axis.
Remember the way I
Um,
put up here? I want to make get the
mm,
state comes in the x-axis.
Okay, please, can you scroll down? Let me see something. Okay, so you are going to put S label equal to S label equal to what is the unit down?
Yeah, I
What do you
just
want
want
to
to.
put? Hold on.
I say
Okay,
state. I want
state.
to. I want to put state.
Put S label equal to, then you now put that quotation mark, that string stuff,
Mhm.
string. Put another one. Okay, you can write state, then close.
Yeah. So, what is wrong here?
You.
You're supposed to add a comma after the X, after the first,
Okay.
after the
Yeah. So that's
first
perfect.
text.
So you need to have a comma here, and that solves the problem. So this is a way you can assign different values to it, and you see here this gives you it, and it is an anonymous Lambert. So it comes here giving you 370. Here you have it is here. So from Lagos to Abuja, you can see what you have here. So if you want to start it from 0, you still go back here and change the value to where you want to start it. So if you run it again, you should be able to have it start from here, Lagos, and then this come here, this comes 208, and you can see what you have here. Now what does it mean? It means that I am converting these things into miles. So a perfect example I can give you is, if this is in kilometer, every value you have here, why do we have uh why do we have 200, and why do we have 234, and then why do we have 1.6 there? Then I am using the 1.6 there as the value for miles. So assuming I want to convert these things into kilometer, what am I supposed to do? I am going to say whatever that I have as x, and I'm going to divide it by 1000. Is that okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I run this and I say divide it by 1000, this is going to be the same value for 1000. Now it is now in meters. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here?
For me, I don't understand. No, we had for the first time
I don't understand. So.
You don't
we had
understand?
300. The
Okay, what
initial
I'm
was 234.
saying, what I did here is, for example, in Nigeria, we calculate the distance between a particular place to another place in kilometers, right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
All right. So in America or in Europe, they calculate in miles, not kilometers. Now, as a data analyst or a data scientist, you have a data that is in kilometer. What are you going to do? So you have to make a code that will automatically make those conversion into the miles. For example, now what I'm saying is this. What is the value of 1000 meters? What is 1000 meters, Nulu, in kilometers? Nulu, can you hear me?
1,000 meters is 1 km.
Yeah, that is exactly what I did here. So now, because I have 234 as in meters, for example, and I want it to be in kilometers, what is the value of 234 in kilometers? Pablo,
Sorry, what did you say?
I said, what is the value of 234 in kilometers?
Are
Did
you
you?
saying 234
Do you do
meters to
you do you
kilometer?
mean 234 meters to kilometers?
Yes. I say, what is the
It's
value
zero
of
point
That's
234?
0.234.
zero
Yeah,
point two
that's
three four.
yeah,
Just
that's yeah, that's what I am saying here. That I use this
0.2.
Lambda function, which I formatted, and I say whatever I have, give it to me in this equivalent. What is the value of dollar to 1 naira?
$1 is
Okay, $1 is what?
I'm not I'm not sure. 800 naira.
0.1600.
Okay, let's use
Okay.
dollar in the first part. What I'm saying is this: the dollar we have in the conversion. Let me use a conversion really quick. If you have $1,000, if you have $1, it means that you have 1,600 naira, right? Now, in Nigeria currency, what will I need to do? I want to say that it is 1,600 based on what Pablo say. Now, I am going to put up 1 here. I will multiply it. So if I have $1, how much will I have? Let me run it here again. I'm going to have 1,600. Did you see it?
Yes.
Now, if I have $3, instead of me changing the value, if I have $3, how much am I going to have? I will run it again. And what it means is that I am going to have 4,800. So the same thing, if I change this into 1,600 as the dollar we have in Nigeria currency, and I want to know how much money do I have in in dollar, it means I need to divide whatever the value of x here in the Lambert function of the bar. So whatever the x is, if I run it again, I am going to have the value. So what it means is that I have this. So it is this over this. 1/6 over 1/6 gives you that. This is 0.1, but here it is just 1. There's nothing here. You can see it gets to here because I say 250 to this, to 260 to this. So that's exactly what I'm saying, that if I have 1 kilometer, so if I have 1.6 kilometer, what will it be in the miles? You multiply it by 1.6. So in that multiplication, that's exactly what I am doing here. And if I run it, and I should be able to have this value here. So 1.6 kilometer is equal to 2 point this miles. Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I made the conversion, and that's automatically convert that. If I ask you what is the value of degree in Celsius, you already know. For example, for those who still remember 1 degree, like in Celsius and Fahrenheit, what is the value conversion difference? So what you need to do is you put up the what you want to convert here, and the value you want to convert it, either divide it or add or multiply. That's automatically constant. Now let me use addition. I'm going to put plus sign here, for example, and then I am going to put 500 here. So automatically, what I'm trying to say is that whatever the value of I put in Abuja here, it should add 500 to it. So if I run this now, it is going to be 234 plus 500. It's going to be 734. This will be this plus this. This will be this plus this. This will be this one plus this. So if I run it now, whatever value you have is going to come here. That's why I have 500 plus 24 is 734. 500 plus 167 is 600, and this 500 plus, this is exactly what I am doing here. Is that okay? And like I said here, this is the title. You can see the
Yes,
title.
yes.
This is the title, and here this is the range I want it to have. So you can see it getting to 250. If I change this thing to 1600 for example and run this same code, you see that it's going to be longer. This is 1200. You can see the difference. So you have the power of extending the length of what you want to do here. You see the way we have it here, it stopped at 70, getting close to each other. You see it now. So but this I have power to make it longer or shorter depending on what I have in mind to do. So that's exactly what I am saying on this. So with this you can make adjustment. It is called, that is using a callable method. So in bar label you use a callable method and you should be able to make extend it or reduce it to what you want. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I just talked about this because when you are walking, sometimes you see the bar, you see you have what you need here, then overlapping with each other. So what are you going to do? You use this method either to see the way I expand it, there is space here. Even if I want to put up another drawing here, I can put up another drawing here or do whatever and it have space. Not like this one, that if I put this thing label here by the right hand side here, you see that this is going to be overlapping with this, thereby not giving me space again. So that is why I decided to put it up that way so that I can have space between them. That's what I am talking about. Are we together?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so now let us go into using random. And for us to use random, let's put the random in any state. So like we did last time, so we are going to use like np random and we are going to seed it. So we now make it like this and let's give it a value of our choice. So random number of 1 2 3 4 5 6 for example, and we now want to put a kind of value on them. So let's put up, sorry, so let's put up the values and let's say Joe, which is equal to, let's start putting up like people we want. Let's go up here and make copy. So let's copy these names here for example and then put it up here. So when we have this name here, and then the next thing we could do is how many people, what is the length we want it to be, because remember we want to go into a horizontal. So how many ways do we want to put, like how do we want it to be? So we are going to put it up and then put the name, the npi arrange based on the number of names of people that are there. So it's going to be a range of how many people that are there. So put it based on the length of the people that are there or based on the item inside there. So we are going to put it up at Joe matrix as the total length. So if the number increase, that means it keep on increasing. So how do we, oh sorry, I'm supposed to close it up like this. So how do we now get the ways what we need it to do? So if we get it up to that length, so anybody we mention in that name, so it should also make a kind of submission into it, and that submission could be, let's say something like what do we use here, um let's use something like height of each person. So and let me put for example height, and then when we put up the height there, and let's assume that whatever height, and we want to seed it up with whatever values we have. So let's make it 20, and then we want to multiply it or add it by the number that the np, that is the random, with whatever we have in the random, that's the seed. So we are going to say np dot random dot rand, which is the normal way we used to pass it up. And then we also need to look for the length, and which is going to be the length of the geomatics. So whatever we need have there, we can multiply by the length of the geomatics that we have there. So we close it up with this, and with that we can now, if there is, remember when you are plotting in Excel sheet, for example, you have I think I opened the wrong data, and let me look for something. Let me use this. Now assuming you want to plot something like this, so I want to select between here, this is coming here, so let me copy this and let me just bring in this here. So I'm going to say equal to, I say here whatever that is here, press enter, and then take this up here, and I have this. Assuming I want to plot this, for example, on this, and let me use the shortcut here, which is equal to, alternate equal to, and let me select both of these to here, and I want to put up a kind of bar plot, and let me use this straightly. And when I put up this and I have this chart, so what I want to talk about is assuming you need the error bar. You see this? So now what is the error bar? The way it is, so you can also add trending. You can see the trending up here. So that's the same thing I am talking about. Like if you have this kind of this and you want to have the error, that's the random, the error is related to each of them. So I can go ahead and then put it up here. So in that, I'm going to use error, which I'm going to still say the np.random. Then in the random.rand, and then I will call all based on the length of the geomatics. And then when that is done, I can now start doing the plotting. I'll define what I want here. So this thing is at the center because I did not close it up. Now I can define it by saying f, then ax, then the ax, sorry, the fig ax we have here, which is going to be a plt, then dot sub plots. Remember the keyword we have been using. And then when we have this, now in this way, like I said, is either, you remember when we said it is going to be this format, is going to be bar h, like what we did last time, or we say h bar, which is automatically horizontal bar. For it to understand this is a horizontal bar. Then in that way, I am going to say that it is ax dot h bar here, because I want it to be in horizontal, as.h bar, and I want also to make the y part. So I'm going to say the y points, which is this. I'm now plotting because I have defined the first thing, and the next thing I want to get done there is the aspect of height. So I'm going to put it up in the height, and then after the height, what is the other variable that we need to put again? So we have an error. So the error as related to it, so let's use x error. So we are going to use this is equals to the side of error. Remember when you define it, so you have to call all of them. That's what you are plotting. So we are just defining what we want, and how do we want it to be? Is it on the top or down? So we want to align it with at the center. So let's make the alignment at the center. So in the center here, we want the alignment to be at the center. So at this, we can close it by putting those things we want there, or if you have more things to put there, you can put it up. But now let's align it at the center. And then what else you need to do, you can also set up like we use in the other one. We can also set up the x, that is the tick. What do you want? Because we are going to make it like a horizontal bar like I said here. Go ahead, like I said here. So we're going to make the
Hmm,
same thing in the horizontal part. Yeah.
okay. Sorry, please, can you go back to the code? What does HABR represent? And this YQOS, sorry, what does it represent? Then FERR,
Yeah. Were you with us when we started the Matplotlib?
is it this one today or the other one?
Not today, like the when we started with the Matplotlib, then when we started with
Yes, yes,
started doing data visualization. Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, we talked about age, like I said, is horizontal. If you remember all we did here, if you
Mm,
remember all we did here, it is well treated. I think we talk about it here, except you forgot. So if you remember all we did here, and let me quickly go to where we have bars. And when we go to where we have bars, you see that I mentioned this. Now I am using bar H here. Look at it here.
okay,
If you
okay.
look here, it is a keyword, and I've said if you want to know about the keyword, you select it
Mm,
and you can
mm,
always press help here. You click on the
mm,
particular keyword you want to see like this, and that's going to give you the information about the keyword you're looking for by having the
okay.
keyword selected. Now, all this we have talked about them, and when we are using bar, look here, look at the bar H when it is horizontal. We want to do it horizontal, and look at this, it is bar because we want to do the vertical. Now, if you look here, I am talking about seed. I've used the seed before because that's how we're able to generate this number. I will use it here. When we use histogram, I use hist. It is a keyword. Then when we use pie chart, I use pie. It is a keyword. Then when we're labeling, we made all these PLT, my X label, my label. This is where all these things are coming from. And then when we use this explode, we use my explode then because we wanted to explode. And I say that explode is a keyword. Start angle is a keyword. Label is a keyword. And that's why we have this. So we have this, and that's why it's necessary you go back and revisit it here. Like I am talking about seed here. We have talked about it before. I've talking about NP random. I've talked about the NP random here, which is how we were able to generate this, and that is exactly what I am trying to do right now on this particular one we are talking about, which is the bar label here. So I'm trying to also do the same thing. So when I'm saying exit the label, I have we have talked about the label part. So I want to set a label here, which is setting the y axis. So I want to set the size, so I'm going to use the x tick. All of them are keyword. Now there's also a way you get to know about this. Like I said, when you click on a particular word, click on it, you can see the kind of parameters you can pass through it. And if you see here, you see these are what you're going to pass through, and this is the documentation of how each of the code are written, so that you can now explore more things. Because the same me, if assuming I want to pass another argument into this plot now, what I can do is to come here, and then I don't have all these things inside my brain except I keep on practicing part of it. But assuming I want to pass a particular thing into it, anything here, you can see that I'm saying a subplot, and these are different type of things I can pass to it. End row, end this. So if I assuming there is a kind of plot I want to create and I can't remember what I need to do with it, I can do the same thing I do now. And I will come calmly to here to look for exactly what I want to use for it. So if I want to look for it as height, if I put boolean equals to true, I will read the documentation here, and then I will understand what it is talking about. So that's the same thing I also want you to do. So if you look at it, I think I've explained about this now, but anything you click here, should be able to give it to you the way it ought to be by just coming through here to read through them. So, but the basic ones we use on our activities is what I'm trying to explain. So that's just what I am talking about now. So now we have used this. So in order to label it, so I'm going to label it with what we have here. And after labeling it, so the label is a keyword which we use, and then I'm going to label it with the name which we use here as geomatic. So let me copy it, and then I want to label it with that name geomatics, which is label it with the number of names you have there. Like we said, that every name you see there, you should label it. So what are we going to do? Label it with that name. So with that, I'm going to close up the bracket, and now when I close up the bracket, I can now do ax dot, and I'm going to do invert it because I need it to be inverted. So in that way, I'm going to invert it. So I'm going to invert the x. I'm going to invert the y label. Sorry, it is not x. So we are going to do the invert y axis. So I'm going to say axis here, and in that way I have to leave it. I don't want to pass any argument into it. Then once you are done and you are okay with what you want to do, so you can go ahead and do plt as it is dot show. So for example, if you say plt dot show, and then which is a keyword we have been using, and let us run this, and it says that the axis has no object as harbor. Okay, the problem is that I didn't type this well. Where is it coming from? It's supposed to be bar h bar, not bar. So if I run this, it says the axis does not have harbor. So what am I typing? So, oh sorry, it's supposed to be bar h. So I will return here and then change it to bar h. So I'm going to put it up to bar h, which is a keyword, and then if I run this, I should be able to have what I want. So now in this case, it is telling me that the argument keyword label is keyword other than minor modify the text label can only be used label if passed well. So it means I supposed to put labels here, and I am using label. So if I run this now, that error will go. Now this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now what happened randomly, it picked up this and put it up here. Assuming I want to add another person here, I can add Collins, into it. If I add Collins, it will automatically, if I run it again, then it will automatically put it up here, Collins. If I come back again, click on it and rerun it, what happened? You see here, Collins is up here, and Nulu and Sterling is all in the same place. If I run it again, what will happen? See it up here the way it is. So you can see that I have Collins, Nulu, Sterling, and all of them are in this way. So you can make other modification that you want to make. And what other modification you can make? You can make several modification on it. Example of the modification you can make on it is you can add other information on how it's going to be. So we have one plotted it, and we have set up the axis in y, and we can also label it. Example of how we can label it is we can label it with the the title like we did in these other ones. So if you now copy this, for example, and then go down here, and then you paste it here, and let us change the title, which we say title, and probably say something else. So number of whatever you want, you put it up here and you run it, you should be able to have a title here. So what else that is remaining? Now let us make the labels again, so we can modify the labels, and in modifying the labels we can also put its labels in the x-axis. this is the number. So what are you going to do? You can make the X label. So in the X label, you can make it the same thing we talked about. So you set it up. So how do you set up? You can say ax dot x label. So which you are going to set up the X label, and in setting up the X label, so you put it underscore and you put it up X label. Now in X label, you can set it up with what is in the X part. Let's say the values. So I'm going to type values, and I'm supposed to put it the way it's supposed to be. So because it is a string, so I'm going to put it up as a values, and I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to put it to Y because the horizontal, and I can say names, or let's just put it names. And then if I run this, I should be able to have a name written here and the values written here. What else what else can we do? We can also label this on top of it. So while we are labeling, like what I did here in the Excel sheet, as you can see here, can see what I did here. So if I want to label the error bar, I can click here, and then look at the different ways it comes in, more option. If I want to put legend, you can see the legend coming here. If I want to put the data table, I can put the data table this way. Then if I want to put the label, I can put up the label this way. This is exactly what I want to do, but remember I did it in vertical, which I am trying to do now in horizontal here. So what else can we do here? We can label it with different distance. So in that way, I'm going to say ax dot bar, which we are going to label it the bar, and we are going to say bar label, and we say label it as that is h bar, which then in the h bar, let's use the format of equal to, and let's do the percentage, which is floor. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put it into the percentage dot, we say 3 significant figure, as you see up whichever figure you want, and we'll close it. And when we run this, we're saying that what error do we have? H bars is not defined. So what is the problem here? H bars is not defined. I use H bar. So let me run it, and then you can see here now that I have it here 92 in 3 significant figure, and if I want to put it in 2 significant figure, I can always do that in 2 significant figure. So let me run it again, and then that gives us in 2 significant figure. Now what else again can we make it looks better? Now let us also dim it and say the axis. So in this way, I am going to do ax dot set, and then I'm going to say x lim. Remember what we did in the other previous one, so I'm going to make it x limit. What is the limit I want it to be? I want it to limit it to, let's say, something like right, and then by the right hand side of it, and let's say 5, and we close it, and then we run it. So with this, you can see the limits up here. Now we have 5, and then what happens if we put 50 and run it again, and you see the difference between it now. So we're able to limit it here. What am I saying? Now let me give you example of what I'm saying here. Now I am going to comment this code and run this again, and when I run it, you can see that I have this thing touching this line, which is not what it's supposed to be. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because I have this here, and I don't want this to be touching here, so I want to limit this thing into not touching here, but I don't want to change the value or whatever it is. So what I can do is, since this is 9.6, so if I make this thing 15, for example, so the limit of this is supposed to be 15. So if I make it at 15 and then I run it, it will give it that space so that it will not be overlapping the way it's overlapping. You can see here I have added limit to it. So 10 is okay, even 12 is okay, so I can comfortably reduce this to 15 to 12, from 15 to 12, and I run it again, and you can see that this is comfortably fitting in. So this is exactly what so there are different what you can do. So this is to adjust the x. Remember, this is x. By here we limited it in y. If you look at this code, you see it was in the limit we were using. Where is it? The limit we were using here was in what? Was in y, because we're limiting it up and down. But here we are limiting it by x because it is in the x direction. So this is basically what you can do as related to label. You can label this like that. Now you can label it in different way you want to label it. So this is exactly what you can do as related to label. So you can see one, we label this by this way, which is exactly what I did here in Excel sheet. So if you look at this, you see I make this up to this, the same thing I did here. So the error bar and rest of them, then you can label it up like that. Then here we were able to do the same thing in y-axis, and we label it on top of it. Here we added the error bar, here we label it on top. Like I said, you can change the edge or the center, so you can see this one here. So this is a stack showing you both male and female on the same bar. So this is exactly what you can do and how that can be done. So in that way you use the formatting. We have used also the formatting method to get that done. So it's simply way you can get it done. So then another thing I just want us to talk a bit is the way, if it is possible, and I think let me just copy this code. Let me copy this particular code and modify it because of our time. So I will just copy this code, and to copy here I'll just click on this here, look at it here, create a duplicate below. So I click on it, I will automatically have a duplicate of that code below. Now what am I going to do on this? I want to make it like modify this what I have in horizontal the way it is, and I want to modify it going to the repeat the same thing the other way. So since I want to modify it, I will still repeat the same thing, but I just want to change few things to make it fit to what I want. What am I changing? I'm going to change few things, and things I'm going to change is something like the labeling part. So here I still want to retain the name, but remember what I said, if I want to add another name like Chika, for example, if I add Chika to it and run the same thing, you will see it adding Chika to this one as well. Remember, we're using random seed. So, and I want to make that modification now. And in making the modification, so I just want to modify a few things. I leave the bar, I leave the axis. You can see I have inverted this. Then I will also leave the arrow, and then align the center, but I just want to modify a few things here. And one of the things I want to modify is from where I have the X bar label here. Where is it? So where I have the labeling bar here, just label, that is the bar label, and then I put HP, and here instead of me putting format here, I want to make it to be labels. So I want to make the labels be in the format of here. I'm putting it as F. I'm going to use the F strings. I'm going to put it in F string, and then I want to put it in either positive or negative format. So you put this positive or negative format, and you now make this E, which is putting it up here, the error which you have, and then you say put it for me in 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places, so which is what you can choose on what you have. And when you are done, you can close up the dictionary. So with dictionary, because you open it up with dictionary, you can put it up in dictionary, and then in that case you close it up with this because you open the F string with this. Then you say for E, which is the error you have in error. How do we write error again? Like this. For error in error, then remember that it ought to be in the list part. So for error in error that we are trying to define, so we want to do padding, and the padding have to do about, let's say, 6, and then we want to change the color of that writing. So let's make the color of that writing to be blue. So we now make it color is equals to, we put it in red. And what else can we do again that will make sense? So let's put this in red, and then after red we can also change the font size, and then the font size is supposed to, let's make it 10. And with this you can close this up. And what else again can you do? You can also do few things. Sorry, you can also do few things like this. So when you do this, you can put it right limb, and then when you run this, it says the F string perhaps they supposed to be comma there. So let's check there and see what was the problem. Labels is equals to F, that is, so perhaps it's supposed to be a comma, you forget to put comma. Where did I forget to put comma? So we have there as F, and positive, negative, and we put up E, and we put this 2 decimal places F, and for F in the error, oh sorry, I've seen it, we're supposed to put comma here. And when we run this, we still have the error that says something, the font size. So I didn't type
One side.
yeah. So we have the font size, and we run it like this, and we should be able to have this kind of uh, this kind of way it is. So I just made a little modification. So remember, if it is green we put G, and we run the same, and we have the G in this point, as you can see here. How do we write? Let me check something. I can't remember the short key. Pablo,
Yeah.
do
Yes.
you know that the short key for positive, negative? So I wanted to show something like, assuming you have I wanted to show something like you have,
Uh,
I mean, I can't hear you. Because me that you're seeing like this is even looking for where to copy
right.
it, because I can't remember. I'm just saying that assuming you have,
Sorry,
you say what?
uh, sorry, I want to ask something.
Yeah,
In
ask.
this label for the bar label,
Mm,
this is that we have error, um, that we have point 2F.
mm-hmm.
Please, how do they write it correctly? Because what I'm having is invalid decimal literal. Let me see.
How do you say? Where do
Wait, let
you?
me just see your own. E.2. It's the same thing I wrote now, but they're telling me invalid.
Okay, I will check it out with you. So I'll check it out with you. So when you do this, you see now that I have the power of making these changes the way it is, and you can see the longer the smaller, you can see it here, 0.3, 0.16 longer, 2, you can see the way it goes in here. So this is a way you can make this. So why I'm saying this is that as a data analyst or as a data scientist, you ought to understand this, because there are different places or different ways you need to visualize your data. So this is how you can label. You see the different label we did here. Now this is what we have in Excel. You see the Excel here, the bar error here. If you go in here, this is the standard, this is the percentage, this is, you can see the way this all are, and you can make more modification on it. Is it plus or minus? Is it this? And there are different scenarios this can happen, and they ask you to do this, and then you start struggling with it. Now in the trending, if I turn off this, that will go. If I turn it on, that comes in the error bar. You can see it in the labeling. You can see data label on and off. I can label it center. This is exactly what we're doing inside. This is inside here, this is outside, this is, you can see this type of things we are doing depending on the scenario. So in aspect of labeling, we are using Python to make such kind of label. Now once I am done for the whole listing, I'm going to save it, or I'll press the saving is complete, or I would remove this, and then I'll press Ctrl S, and that is saved, and I will return back to here. I'm now here because this is running in my terminal, because every changes I make here comes in here. I can add a new one as 2 here, and once that happens, I am going to click git add, because I want to add everything I have done. So I'm going to put up git add, press enter, and that is done. So I'm going to do git commit, and that is to the main, so which is M. And what did we do today? So what we possibly do today is we worked on bar labels. So I'm going to return back to here and say bar label. So and then git commit to the main bar labeling, and then we have added changes of 39 insertion, that is plus, and we deleted about 4, and it created, this is the files is going to add 2 files, this one and this, and then the next thing I need to do is to do git push, and that is going to happen here. So when you get it here, so it's going to move, and it have finally done, and this have published it on my GitHub. So remember that the next thing we are going to be working on, why I'm showing this, is that we are going to be working on dashboard, and that dashboard we are going to create is a kind of dashboard that looks like a blue kind of dashboard. Example of dashboard I'm going to say is a company have a data and they want you to be monitoring the real life of what they are doing. So I want you to know how you can make those real life, like so, but what I'm saying is like exactly what, let me check this. Okay, now this is what I mean. So we are going to be mining the real data like this. So there are different projects we are going to be done. We are going to do sort of things like this. We are going to do this kind of thing that will be scrapping the data and changing it in real life. And as you are working on it, it's going to be showing you tracking the real life like this. So we are going to be working on such kind of a thing. So that's what we are going to be building up, but we need to understand everything have to do with data visualization. So we're going to be making this kind of data visualization, so gets to understand each and everything I'm saying, and